This, in my opinion, is a really, really important one among all the other hyperglyphs. It's called framing conflict. Framing conflict is about how to handle conflict among relationships. I mean, this happens. Conflict is inevitable, first of all. Every relationship you have will eventually have some level of conflict if it's a long, deep relationship. And conflict will happen at work, conflict will happen with neighbors, conflict will invariably happen with family members and friends and people you go to church with. Conflict is going to happen. Knowing that will help us remove the myth that we can avoid it and actually help us deal with it in a good way, because if we deal with conflict healthily, it can actually yield some good results. Relationships that go through conflict well can be stronger on the other end. So framing conflicts is about how to put conflict into a box that makes it go well instead of letting it be like a wildfire that just burns up everything and destroys. There are 4 sides to framing conflict. Let me share what these are. I'm going to write them down. 4 sides or 4 steps. The first one is meet. Actually, I'll just write them all and then meet, lift, listen, and ask. The first step or the first side of the frame is meet. If you have conflict with a person, if it crops up or you sense there's some tension between people, or you've even heard of conflict, stirring up in the corner of your organization, the important principle here is to meet with that person as soon as possible. The longer this goes, the more the conflict grows. So meet with them in person, face to face, as soon as you can. This is often the hardest step because we don't want to meet with people that are upset with us. We don't want to deal with problems. It's not in most people's nature to say, hey, this person doesn't like me, I'm going to go meet with them. That's contrary to what we generally want to do. But it's the first and one of the most key steps. We have to have the courage to move toward the person in order to resolve the conflict. So meet with them in person. This does not mean send them an email. Conflict only grows through media. It can be mediated through interpersonal meeting. Okay, so please, if you get a heated email, do not respond to it. Just meet with the person, or respond to it by asking a time to meet with them. If you're on the phone and you can meet with a person and the phone call ends in a conflicted way, don't send them a follow-up text. Try to meet with them. If this is impossible to meet in person, then at least meet on the phone or FaceTime. Here's why. A couple different reasons. We gain most of our communication through nonverbals. So in order to pick up somebody's intention and their attitude, it's much harder for me to do that on an email or on a Facebook post or on a text or even on a phone call. I still can't see them. Most of our communication actually happens through nonverbal means. So when I'm with a person, I can read their intent and I can have a calm presence that calms them. I can show up and simply by my presence affirm that, hey, I'm here. You're important. Let's work this out. I'm here. People will be much more brazen and rude typing you an email or sending you a message than they will be in person. So this helps actually resolve the situation. Meet with them. Also, when you're setting a meeting, set the meeting. If you need to address conflict, maybe somebody in your organization made a mistake or is handling a situation poorly and you have to address it, maybe you have to fire somebody, set a meeting with them. Let them know ahead of time that you want to meet with them, and then let them know this is a particular kind of meeting. So it could be as simple as saying, hey, so-and-so, I'd like to meet with you. Are you free at all tomorrow? Oh, yeah, we're free tomorrow at 3. Okay, great. Let's meet tomorrow at 3. I'll come to your office. I just want you to know there's some important stuff I want to talk through. It might be a little challenging, but I want to meet with you. We'll work it out. Let them know this is a meeting where we'll deal with conflict. I'm telling you, this is, again, it's contrary to our nature, but it goes a long way with people. Even if you have to fire somebody, let's take one of the worst case scenarios, and you have to meet with them, let them know it's going to be a challenging meeting. Let them know there's some difficult things I need to discuss, but I would like to meet with you at this time. That puts them in a framework of recognizing all right, I'm not coming in for a promotion. I'm not going to be totally caught off guard. Something's going to happen, and I'm not sure what it is. The longer you wait between the ask and the actual meeting, the more anxiety builds up for the person. So it's better if you can have a short account there and just meet with them rather quickly. Even if the conflict is just stepped on something. Even if the conflict is happening right now, or somebody walked by you and just said something rude and you've got to address it right now, let them know you're meeting with them right now. Hey, I'd like to talk to you. Do you have a minute right now? Let them know. Frame it in. We've got a meeting here. This isn't a meeting. It's about conflict. Sometimes I'll even say, hey, I'd like to have a conflict conversation with you. Do you have a minute this afternoon? People know right away, okay, I know what we're going into. We're going to work this out. And people will also begin to trust you. It sounds strange, but they will begin to trust you because they know they will not be blindsided and caught off guard with this huge derailing criticism from you. They know if we're going to have conflict, we're going to have it in a healthy way. We'll set a time. We'll address it like adults, and we won't just light into people when we're upset. Set a meeting. Meet with them. The next part is lift. Early on when you meet with them, whether you've got the problem or they've got the problem or whatever the problem is, start by lifting them up. Not physically, verbally. Lift them up. Let them know, hey, I value you. You're important to me. I am on your team. And this can be as simple as saying, I really appreciate you meeting with me today. I just want to let you know first, I respect you. And so whatever we talk about today comes from a standpoint of respect. I respect who you are. It could be as simple as saying, hey, I really want to talk today about some performance stuff in your job. But before we talk about that, I just want you to know I have seen what you've been doing in this area, and it's really making a difference for the whole group. Thank you for your hard work in this. And I just want you to know when we address this challenge, this isn't the only thing I see. I see all kinds of good stuff. Great job. Now let's tackle this tough part. Lift them up. They'll begin to ease their defensiveness if they know you care about them and you're on their team. Third part is listen. Before you accuse or before you throw down consequences or punishments or before you even assume that you know what they're thinking or what they did, just listen to what they have to say. So maybe the issue was you were driving the rental van for the company and you crashed it. How could you crash that? I've got to eke this out of savings account, or now we can't use this company anymore, or it's gonna make our insurance go up. Whatever the problem is, listen to them first. Say, hey, we both know this happened. I want to hear what happened, and you might hear a story that gives you a different perspective. If you listen to them, you may get new information that changes your opinion. And even if you were right on and they made a dumb decision and they messed it up big time, and you've got to bring down some difficult consequences, the fact that you listen to them will show care and respect. It will go a long way for the relationship. Listen first. And then ask. When it comes to conflict, we cannot force change on another person. Even in a job situation, we can't make people change. We can try to manipulate things, but at the end of the day, people are going to make their own decisions. We cannot force that, but what we can do is ask. We can make a request for a specific change. Okay? So even if that request has a consequence attached to it, let's use another example in a work environment, but this could be at home or it could be anywhere. Let's use a work example first. Let's say somebody that you supervise continually shows up 15 minutes late. Almost, once or twice a week, they're late to work, and they know exactly what time it is. So you can go through this whole process and say, hey, I want to meet with you this afternoon. We're going to talk about a job issue. Okay, great. Set the meeting. We go in, you say, hey, I just want to say, first of all, thanks for meeting with me today. And I've noticed this project that you've been doing. You've been doing a great job on that. And overall, you're just doing a really good job in your job. I hope you feel good about that because I notice, other people notice, you're doing a great job. Great, you lifted. Now listen. Okay, I've observed once a week or rather often when you come in, it's later than your start time. You're frequently 10, 15 minutes late. And we've had this conversation before. What's happening? Why is this continuing to happen? Stop and listen, hear what's going on. Maybe there's no good excuse, maybe there's no reason, or maybe this person is going through terrible financial situations. They just had a divorce, their car broke down, they're scraping money together to repair it, they've got to get rides, they've got to take their kid to school at a certain time, and it's really a conflict of time. Whatever happens, you can determine after you listen what the best course of action is. And then let's just say it's just tardiness. There's no good reason. They're just showing up late. Ask. Make the specific request. And phrase it like a request, not a demand. Because listen, they don't have to do what you say. They could quit. Make the request. Say, I need to make a very specific ask here. I want you to be on time every day. Are you willing to do that? If you're not, I will give you 2 warnings, and then you're not going to work here anymore. That's the request. Are you willing to do that? Yep or nope. Okay, but you can ask, and even if you ask with a consequence attached, you're asking them for different behavior. You're not demanding that they change. That goes much better with people. Or perhaps in the listening stage you realize, goodness, there's a lot going on in their life, and I could actually be flexible with the start time, and I don't have to hold them to this standard. And for right now, goodness, it's best to just give them some leeway. And you could say, all right, I'm gonna make a request here. I know you got a lot going on, and sometimes it's really difficult to manage the timing. I'm going to give you some flexibility, but I'm going to ask you not to abuse it. And I'm going to ask you to do your best every day to get here at this time with a little bit of flexibility. Is that something you're willing to do? Great. If we have more problems, we'll talk about it later, but I want to extend a little leniency. If we would follow this framing conflict, so many conflicts would stop before they get big. People would understand each other. We'd show respect to one another. We'd grow in relationships. This stuff is biblical. It's in the Bible. There are various times where Jesus taught on conflict, where people modeled conflict in the Bible. These are the steps. Very simple, but don't neglect them. Go through them. You'll notice a huge difference. And what seemed like it was going to be a bad situation could actually be turning out to be a really healthy situation. Framing conflict.